Okay, welcome back. This is our final portion of Learning Unit 1, Contextual and Subjective Analysis. So I want you to take a moment um, to look at this painting by Raphael, Madonna of the Goldfinch. I want you to pause the video and do a quick formal analysis. So just jot down, pen to paper, what you're seeing in the picture plane. Talk about symmetry, spatial depth, light, color, line, and space, shape. Um, what do you see in the foreground, middle ground, and background? So that also relates to space. So yes, why don't we do that now? Pause quickly and jot it down. Take about 3 minutes. This is your official formal analysis. Okay, excellent. Contextual analysis involves identifying subject matter, identifying a style, so the region and the period, and discussing any kind of historical context that's relevant, and most importantly, to addressing the meaning or the content of the work. So remember, then argue about how the form relates to content. Um, Also, is there any symbolism? So that brings us to iconography. That's, going beyond subject matter. We see an orange. Is it just an orange, or is the artist trying to say that this is a family that has a lot of wealth? Because at that particular time and place, you have to be wealthy to have oranges. We're going to talk about it a bit more. So be sure to, pause and take notes when necessary. I'm going to go over it pretty quickly. I want you then to go and elaborate and research yourself on these key concepts that I'm introducing. So, identifying subject matter. What is the image depicting literally? The content of the work is the meaning of the image or object, which is often deeper and more complex than just the surface depiction. Like I said, we can talk about content more with asking if there's any symbolism. So identify if there's iconography. Symbols are images that take on meaning by association, resemblance, or different cultural conventions, like a dollar sign, for example. It's not just an S with a line going down the middle, right? It represents something more than that. Okay, but just going back to our first topic of identifying subject matter, um, there are different representational modes that we can look at. So things can seem very real, or things can seem not real and more abstract. Those are modes of representation. We also have different genres, okay, of subject matter. A landscape is very popular. Still life is very popular. Figurative involves anything with the body. Um, Not all works of art obviously have a subject matter, even architecture. Sometimes they seem really wacky, right? For instance, let's see here, the Rothko. Um, it's just this blurry color fields, right? We can't identify it. What is it? Rothko's asking us to kind of evoke memories or emotions or feelings when we view his work. His work is really, large canvases. I'm talking like 30 by 30 or bigger. So it's really pure color that's evoking some kind of, emotional response. It's really just a bunch of volumes and a bunch of formal elements of, color volumes put together. Um, so, there's different levels of abstraction. The stuff the examples I gave previously with the still life and landscape and figurative, that's pretty realistic, right? So that's called naturalism or realism. Abstract, however, is, not really based in reality. We're not closely observing it and putting it exactly as how, it would be based on, linear perspective and things like that. Um, so Picasso, for instance, has done this painting, Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, of these women, and we know that they're women, but they're very distorted. So this is known as abstract expressionism, well, which is also another art movement itself. But if you're talking about something that's abstract, tell me, is it non-representational or is it more just expressionist? Rothko's work is definitely non-objective type of abstract, okay? So when discussing a mode of representation, we're also talking about the style of an art object. So style is what makes the work distinct. How has the artist combined form and composition to make his work look a certain way? So oftentimes we're looking at these periods, right? It's history, and we're lumping together artists based on their style at that particular period. So this is like really a lot of what art history is about, looking at the individual artist's work and the groups of artists working in this particular place and time, and seeing if, hey, these all are following a certain style, and then they have to use formal analysis to make that argument fly. So for instance, I've chosen this subject matter of the reclining nude, um, and I've picked out different periods of the same subject matter to kind of show you how style varies from different periods. Here's our reclining nude from the Renaissance, which has different kind of choices of form and color than our neoclassical reclining nude. This is David's work here, Odalisque. And this is a contemporary example of a reclining nude by the realist painter Natalia Fabia, who's based out of Los Angeles. So it's important to know the different formal aspects of the different styles so you can, talk about whether or not a painting is neoclassical or romantic, for instance. So these are things just for your guys' arguments to be strong with our art historical analysis. So regional style, these are two different, paintings of the same genre from the 17th century, one from China, watercolor, and an illustration for a botany text from the Netherlands. So representational style. I want you guys to really, really make a note of this, okay? It becomes very important for content or discussion of content. So representational styles are those that describe the appearance of recognizable subject matters that seem really lifelike. So, we're engaging with this, real kind of representational stuff. It's not abstract. However, again, there's degrees of realism with our representational style. Our picture on the left here is more idealized or stylized, which means it's based on an observation in the real world, but then it's distorting it. Okay, so the Virgin and Child appear kind of doll-like and gravity-defying. So usually when we're looking at someone of importance, stories from the Bible, of course, the religious figures and royalty, it's going to be idealized or stylized. We're not going to show flaws. Here is a Caravaggio's portrait of Bacchus or Dionysus. And look what he's done here. It's very naturalistic or realistic. Those are the same meaning. But what I wanted to point out is that he kept the model's farmer tan. So, clearly whoever was sitting for him was a peasant, from the working class, spends his time farming outside. So he has the kind of reddened face and hands while the rest of his body is covered. Um, Definite kind of class um, implications here. Even though he's drawing supposedly a painting a Greek god, and we even have some of the fruit decaying here. So there's these kind of formal aspects are relating to content. So again, I just wanted to reiterate, when we're looking at representational style work, tell me, is it idealized or is it very naturalistic? Okay, this is my favorite, iconography. Iconography is going to give us clues to the deeper meaning and content of the artwork. It's not just what we see on face value. So iconography is something I want you guys to research and practice observing. Also, not just looking at our works from the past, but think about contemporary iconography. Obviously, things change. Oranges represented wealth in, the 14th century in Northern Europe. Now, not so much. We can all go to the grocery store and get some. Here's a contemporary symbol in America, the Chrysler Building of New York. Um, we can have archetypes be iconography. For instance, beautiful woman, birth of Venus. Here's Georgia O'Keeffe's flower paintings. She created her own kind of system of iconography through her abstraction of flowers. So literally, it means the writing of images. Here's Clara Peters' still life from 1612. She's loaded it up with iconography. To us, it just seems like a pretty still life, but she's actually, hinting at something that's going to come, the eventual decay of material life. She's put her signature on a wedding knife. So, the forms and figures function oftentimes as holders of symbolic or narrative content specific to a particular time and place. What does that mean? We have to think about who was making the artwork and who paid for the artist. So that gives us clues as to the story of what was going on in that particular time and place. This is Jean Fouquet's Etienne Chevalier and Saint Stephen, Virgin and Child, from a triptych commissioned by King Charles VII of France. But he's snuck in, the face of the king's favorite mistress as the face of the Virgin Mary. So, in terms of religious symbolism, iconography is very rich in Christian art. But we do find it in secular symbolism too. So secular means not having to do with religion at all. Non-secular means having to do with religion. So secular symbolism comes from classical mythology, current cultural trends, the artist's and often the patron's personal life. So, common secular themes involve love, money, pop icons, Disney. Those are just a few examples. I want you to think about what are some motifs used in contemporary iconography. And finally, we come to subjective analysis. So this all has to do with you. It's not enough, though, just to do subjective alone. I expect you guys to have arguments in your analysis, justifying your subjective analysis with formal analysis and content. So, however, let's do an exercise. I want you to look at the next slide, a landscape, German Romantic landscape painting by Caspar David Friedrich, and do a subjective analysis. So how did it make you feel? Did it make you recall an experience in your own life?